Welcome in. I'm John Gonzalez alongside Ashley, Nicole Moss, and Bill Reiter, who are in the studio again. This is your last day together, gang.
It is.
Yeah, we need to make this a habit. We got to get John out here. I got to come back. We need to do some in-person shows. This place is great.
Yeah.
I'm excited about this, that you guys are together. And right before we started the show, we found out that Ashley is making her maiden voyage to Denver. And we were telling her about the Denver airport, which you were wholly unaware about.
I'm very freaked out.
Kerr statues, other stuff. Yeah.
If I don't come back, just somebody come looking for me. That's all I ask.
We'll send up a flare for you for sure. I think we're doing winners and losers on today's show based around the trade deadline. But the Denver airport, always a winner for me. So I encourage everybody who doesn't know about that to Google it because it's a good time. All right, let's do winners. We're going to start with, again, Ashley's New York Knicks, who everybody, I don't know if you guys, how much after the show yesterday you consumed NBA media, but along with us, the entire NBA world is on the New York Knicks right now for what they've done. They go and get Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks for 2 second-round picks. They have, as Ashley mentioned on yesterday's show, all of their first still in their bag. Now, it helps with the depth, which they need because they've got a ton of injuries, and we should note that OG Anunoby, there was some news from him yesterday. He had surgery to remove loose fragments in his elbow, in his right elbow. It's going to be out a minimum of 3 weeks. But good news here, though, is the All-Star break is coming up, so it's kind of the perfect time to do this. So right now, all positive on the whole for the Knicks.
Yeah, congratulations. Leon Rose, Executive of the Year, right? Are we going to give it to him?
I mean, they showed a little still of him during the game against the Mavericks yesterday, and he looks like the happiest man in New York. But yeah, I mean, obviously the OG news is unfortunate, but not. You have timing on your side. It's good that they caught this now. Obviously, also the Knicks kind of have just a ricochet of injuries in some way, shape, or form, right? But again, we have the break coming up, so that's beneficial as well. The injuries, we always talk about this, injuries happening at the worst time is just the worst possible thing for a team. I feel like these injuries happening now is better than them happening in March, April. The Knicks will be able to figure out a way to kind of extend everyone's longevity down the stretch, but also they got some reinforcements coming in on Saturday that's going to help them out as well. So I think the Knicks did really, really well. Again, health is so important, but I think now that you have some additional pieces to offset that load from your main guys, I think Jalen, Julius, when they get back, they're going to be in good shape. I feel good.
I think the main takeaway is when they're healthy, when they're not banged up with the additions they made. We're including Anunoby in the trade additions, right? Even though it wasn't yesterday, it happened several weeks ago, right? What a complete and absolute build over the course of half a season from the Knicks to a really good team with Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle too. And you see it there. These guys are competitors. I can't believe
they Precious too, right? I mean, Precious has given them really good minutes.
And I mean, listen, the Knicks have a lot of number one, first round draft picks that they did not have to give up.
I think it's 8, right? Do they still have 8? Is that the number?
For any of these guys. I mean, that alone is something to be celebrated. You didn't have to give up any of your first round draft picks. And you have them in your back pocket, if you want to go ahead and land that big fish in the summer or whenever that comes around, you have 8 first rounders that you have at your disposal. It's very impressive that the Knicks were able to build such a balanced team. And that's my favorite word for this team right now is balanced without having to move any of their big trump cards. It's actually very, very impressive.
Even John, before yesterday, I think they were a top 3 team in the East. And with Bogdanovic and Burks, they had shooting. They already had defense. They were getting better defensively with OG. John, you and I guess we already did surrender, but they won the day. They really did. Won the day.
I mean, Bogdanovic and Burks too. Not just guys who are catch and shoot guys, but who can get shots off the dribble, breakdown guys. They really guys who are versatile offensively. Now, I wonder how much Burks is going to end up playing, when everybody is healthy in the playoffs. We've mentioned this a million times. The rotation is going to tighten up. Tibbs doesn't really like to play that many.
He doesn't like rotations. He wants 5 guys.
He has so many. And if there are future injuries after guys come back, then all of a sudden you've got some options, right? And I wonder, I look at this team I spend way too much time now thinking about the Knicks. It kind of kills me. But I was thinking about like,
I can totally get like if you fill out a form, I can definitely put your bandwagon application to the front of the line. You just have to ask nicely.
Don't be baited, John.
I prefer not. But when I look at this, like, so Dante DiVincenzo is basically like MJ right now. He's just cranking threes. He's scoring at will. He's just putting on shows in the Garden. Yes, they lost to the Mavs, but they were shorthanded. It was the Dante DiVincenzo show last night. I think he's going to stick in the starting lineup, actually.
Yeah.
But then I wonder, like, all right, when Mitchell Robinson comes back, Hartenstein's been awesome. Which guy are you starting there?
He's one of the most underrated guys in the league this year.
Hartenstein will probably continue to start. Mitchell Robinson, you can expect he's going to be a little bit rusty. It's going to take him a while to get acclimated. I don't see him taking the starting position away from Hartenstein. I think also OG and Julius are going to be a little bit rusty. I think
going OG, Julius, Jalen, and I think Dante, and then probably Hartenstein, right? And then all of a sudden your bench looks amazing.
That is a really deep and really good basketball. We hit on this a little bit yesterday.
You heard that? Deep.
The real talk here, is Thibodeau able to make use of that depth? Because
no,
he doesn't. That's not his thing.
I think I think his hand's going to be forced a little bit because, like I said, Julius and OG are going to. Conditioning wise, I feel like they're still, well, at least Julius, he's probably still on the treadmill. He's still doing cardio, but in terms of playing an actual game, he's going to have fatigue. I think Jalen Brunson, obviously with his ankle, whenever he returns, he's going to be a little bit rusty. I don't think he's going to have much of a choice.
When you get to the playoffs,
but to go to his bench.
Everybody's healthy and they're playing all the minutes. I don't know if Tibbs is going to get. Maybe he won't need the depth. They're so good.
I'll take the bet right now. No way he goes more than 7 deep in the playoffs. No way. 0% chance.
You're probably right.
I mean, it's just not like most teams in the playoffs are going at most 8, right? So like on a Tibbs team, it's 6 and 7. So there's no way. But I do like everything that they've done. Kudos to the Knicks. I'm going to put you guys on the spot right now. Second best team in the East?
Yes.
Tie with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I think if we're going to have this conversation about the Knicks, and we should, because the Knicks are your team and because they're a New York City team and it's great for the game, Cavs are, I think, every bit as dangerous in the short term.
But who do you trust more in the playoffs?
I mean, I don't know that I trust either of those teams historically in the playoffs. You're right. There's a Donovan Mitchell question for me in the postseason. He can win you games. He can shoot you out of games. And they haven't had a lot of that team's been banged up to play together. But Cleveland's deep too when they're completely healthy. And Donovan Mitchell is not going to be there next year. I don't think. Most people don't think. But this year, there's a case that on any given that those two teams against each other, Donovan Mitchell can be the best player on the floor and not Jalen Brunson one night or two nights. I mean, that's a pretty close call when Mitchell hits his ceiling. So anyway, John, Knicks and Cleveland for me, 2A, 2B in that area.
Yeah, I was skeptical about Cleveland this year because I wasn't sure what it would look like when Mobley came back from his injury. And the fit felt a little wonky because Mobley's outside shot hasn't really developed yet. And yet he and Jared Allen are like a monster front court.
Did you see Jared Allen get into a fight with your boy Ben Simmons last night?
I did. Very amusing. Very amusing. Ben Simmons, somebody, I can't take credit for this, but Ben Simmons was like just begging for, somebody tweeted that Ben Simmons was begging for a new way to miss games, which I thought was very amusing. All right, let's move on to the Mavericks. The Mavericks are also a winner. Speaking of front courts, they beefed up their front court. They added PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. Now, as we mentioned on yesterday's instant trade deadline reaction show, PJ came at a price. I mean, they moved Grant Williams, who wasn't playing and acquitting himself very well in Dallas. That's fine. Seth Curry's gone. That's fine. The pick they gave up for PJ, who I like a lot, not nearly as much as producer Aaron likes. He loves PJ Washington. It's a 2027 first rounder, top 2 protected. So basically almost unprotected, plus 2 seconds. Look, this is a drastic improvement for these guys, but how much does it move the needle?
I think they're a winner with an asterisk for me as I processed it and thought about it. Because to John's point, I don't know that it changes the equation of where the Mavericks finish at the end of the year. I think they're still going to be a disappointing team in the postseason. And they gave up that first round pick. And I think the price somewhat matters. There's a world where Kyrie Irving and or Luka Doncic are not around in a few years. And this experiment has failed so badly, it has blown up this team. And every one of these picks that you're giving away, this pick in particular, it matters and it's important. This has to, Washington, I like Washington a lot. He has got to make this team at least a second round team that competes and has a chance at a conference finals. And I like him. That's not the Dallas Mavericks weren't that before the deadline, Ash, for me, and they're not that now.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing, I saw an interesting graphic last night during the Knicks Mavs game, and they said that Luka and Kyrie, I believe, are top 5 in duos and points per game, which doesn't really tell the whole story because obviously individually they put up a lot of points, but when it comes to like them as a collective duo, they don't really win together. They win kind of in spite of the other. And I don't know if PJ Washington is enough of a glue to change that. I mean, to me, it just a lot of the times it seems like Luka and Kyrie are 2 really skilled basketball players playing a game on the court at the same time, but they're not teammates. I don't know how PJ changes that equation. It's very clear that the Mavericks don't value defense. They have a formula where we're just going to go out there and we're going to outscore you, and whoever has the most points at the end of the quarter, the fourth quarter, wins the game, which may work in the regular season, but we've seen that story kind of play out with other teams before, and it doesn't result in a championship. I don't know if PJ fills those needs. He's not known for his defense. Offensively, yeah, he gives you more of a scoring punch, but
Daniel Gafford, though. They got Daniel Gafford, too. I mean, he plays defense.
Though, like that's one guy playing defense on a team that does not value defensive effort, like at all.
I mean, Lively before he got injured was playing some pretty good defense. Yes, he's a rookie, but he looks really good. That's why I think they bring in Daniel Gafford and PJ, and they try to beef up that front line, and you can bring Lively along a little bit more slowly, and work him into the mix. I do think it's interesting though that what Bill mentioned about if this experiment doesn't work, because as producer Aaron points out, they don't control their draft now after moving this pick out from 2027 through 2030. That's gone. And Luka's a free agent in 2026. I mean, you can't let Luka go. Luka's probably not going anywhere. But
where are you going?
If you get unhappy enough, and we have a new owner, and we don't know how that's going to play out and what that dynamic is like over the next few years. And Kyrie Irving, let's just be honest with each other. Kyrie Irving has a tendency to go into places and things don't go well.
Nah.
Yes.
Kyrie, no, he's the consummate teammate. Everybody loves him. He never says anything crazy.
I mean, maybe
you like Kyrie.
I like Kyrie. And I've said this before. Kyrie looks happy in Dallas and then he leaves. But I
don't fall for it.
He doesn't have to play defense and he gets to play a separate game from his
let's play a quick game here. Let's do the better than game before we move on to the next winner. Are the Mavs now, after adding PJ and Daniel Gafford, we already think that they're better than the Jazz. Are they better than the Lakers? They're currently better than the Lakers in the standings.
No, not in the playoffs.
They're not better than the Lakers in the playoffs.
Ceiling, I would take the Lake.
I would take Dallas. I'm taking Dallas.
Yeah, I'm going with Dallas. Kings? You like them better than Kings?
No.
Well, I like
either. What about the Pelicans?
The Pelicans are a weird team because sometimes they look really bad.
Yeah, I don't know.
But when they're good, they're like, oh crap, like they could really like cause some issues. They're like a weird on the fence.
I like
team,
the Mavs better than the Pelicans. The Pelicans.
That's the tier though, right? I mean, that's the tier. They're in the Pelicans, Kings, Mavericks, 6, 7, 8, because none of us are going to have them higher than the Suns and the top 4 teams in the West. But hey, I like what they did. They had to do something.
Nobody believes that the Mavericks are making a deep run. Is that right?
No.
Nobody believes.
No.
So this is a win in principle only.
Yeah. Principle on paper, but look, they had to do something because the West is absolutely loaded. All right, moving on to our next winner. This is kind of counterintuitive. We talked about it on yesterday's show, but it's the Los Angeles Lakers just because they did the smart thing, right? They saved their picks for the offseason. Bill has brought this up. They only had one pick that they could have traded, one first-round pick that they could have moved out. That wasn't going to be enough for DeJounte Murray. Even if they got DeJounte, probably not enough to really supercharge this team. Instead, you get 3 during the offseason. Maybe you take a run at Donovan Mitchell. They did the smart thing here.
Yeah, this is a win for the Lakers.
Is it?
100%.
Did you see them last night?
Here's the thing.
Hey, they played tough last night with no D'Angelo Russell and no Rui. They had Rui Hachimura and Max Christie in the starting lineup.
They had one quarter where they actually looked like they were giving maximum effort.
There's no reason to set your money on fire. I mean, you send out that first round pick and Austin Reeves, by the way. I don't think that's not enough to get to DeJounte Murray. But even if it were, Murray comes in and D'Lo goes out and you're a little bit better. It's the right move. I mean, there's a ceiling. They can still make a run at an NBA championship. They're not going to beat the Nuggets. They can do what they did last year. And as John said, now you go target Donovan Mitchell in the summer. And when he becomes a Knick, congratulations. You go target maybe Trey Young. I'm sure there's people I'm not thinking of. There's always chaos out there and guys that are available. I'm with John. There's nothing you could do that would have made you markedly better. you would have just burned an asset and maybe a player at the altar of LeBron James, and it would have led to nothing.
I do agree. I do agree with that standpoint, but I keep making this point. The issue is LeBron has a player option. Also, if LeBron doesn't like what's available in the summer, you also run the risk of LeBron saying, "I'm out." Because we've said this about
likely to leave. He's more likely to leave if you make a mistake now. And he's like, DeJounte Murray's not very good. And then you say to him, well, we don't have the assets anymore to actually get a player that would make you stay. I think this makes it more likely.
I feel like the Lakers could have made a very minute move just to maybe give him a little bit more of an edge where they needed it. LeBron
is not the kind of guy that owns his own mistakes, by the way. He blames other people.
This is not a championship team. So I feel like if you would have just made a little bit of a move to like show LeBron, listen, we're trying to give you something so you can make a run, even though in the back of your mind,
he doesn't care about that.
I just feel like, though, Bronny is 2-3 years removed from the NBA.
Well,
there's nothing,
should be 2 or 3 years removed. Yeah.
But if he stays at USC, which he should, there's nothing keeping LeBron on the Lakers because years down the road, he can figure out a way for him and
USC's
Bronny
in LA,
to play.
so I think that keeps LeBron there. I think actually Bronny's spending an extra year at
LeBron's
USC.
a private jet. He could fly back and forth to where's USC?
He likes it. LeBron likes in LA.
Huh?
As he likes
USC's in Los Angeles proper.
Okay.
So I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. I watched the entirety of the game last night because I was on HQ, talked about it afterwards with Akeem. They looked good. I mean, until the Nuggets went on until the Nuggets went on a 10-0 run at the very end and put the game away. They were in that game competing with the defending champions and Nikola Jokic with Max Christie starting and Rui Hachimura, who gave them less than nothing. I mean, as long as you have LeBron and AD, you've got a puncher's chance. They had won 3 in a row. Look, D'Angelo was out. They're going to get him back. We talked about Gabe Vincent. He's been hurt. They haven't gotten anything from him. So it's almost like when he comes back, you get like an extra guy. And all indications are Spencer Dinwiddie incoming. That's an extra body. That's not terrible. They could do a little something.
They can make the conference finals. They are good enough to make the conference finals.
Ooh,
that's too much for me. That's too much.
They're basically the same team they were last year. Did you watch the NBA finals? Last year? Yes.
I also watched the Heat go from an eighth. I've also watched the Heat go from an 8th seed to the finals. You think that's going to happen again?
They think it's going to happen again.
Well, do you think it's going to happen again?
I think it's a lot more likely the Lakers make a run to the conference finals. LeBron James, Anthony Davis can absolutely get it done.
No way.
I've been covering this league for so long, and it's amazing how many times people just sleep on LeBron.
That's a good point, but the West is just so loaded. Well, anyway, kudos to the Lakers on doing nothing. You're a winner. All right, moving along to the Suns. The Suns, we don't have to spend a ton of time on this. The Suns are in 5th in the Western Conference right now. They've looked really good. They didn't have a lot of options here, not a lot of assets that they could trade out. So they bring in Royce O'Neal, much needed rotation player, didn't cost a ton. Does that solidify them as the 5th best team in the West, or do we think that maybe, I know that we've been down on the Wolves, but I don't think that we'd have the Suns ahead of the Clippers. I'm not putting them ahead of the Thunder. I'm not going to put them ahead of the Nuggets. So that kind of just leaves the Timberwolves ahead of them.
I have a question mark about the Clippers.
Let me recalibrate. I think the Suns can beat all the teams you mentioned in a 7-game series. So I don't know if they're ahead of them in a power rankings right now, but if Kevin Durant is being Kevin Durant, with the other guys in that team, and if the buyout market, they get some depth, and would I be shocked if the Suns beat the Nuggets in a 7-game series? Yeah, but I wouldn't be shocked if they beat the Clippers. I certainly would be shocked if they beat the overrated Timberwolves, and I wouldn't be shocked if they beat the very excellent, your new team, but very young Thunder. I think the Suns belong in that potential top pecking order.
I do have question marks about the Clippers going into the playoffs, but I think that's fair because of James Harden, right?
Very fair.
I don't have questions about the Suns going into the playoffs because I have seen, obviously, Devin Booker. I've seen Kevin Durant. You know what they give you come playoff time. Bradley Beal, obviously, is the odd man out. You don't really know. But again,
washed? Is there a chance that Bradley Beal is washed if you include his inability to stay healthy? I think yes.
I don't think he's washed, but he's in a third role now, right? I mean, he's the third guy, so he doesn't have to be Bradley Beal from 3-4 years ago.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're asking, like, would I put the Suns ahead of any of those teams you mentioned come playoff time? I do put them ahead of the Clippers. I do put them ahead of the Wolves.
Wow, ahead of the Clippers. The Clippers are killing it.
No, they're killing it right now, but I'm thinking, like, do I trust the Clippers more than I trust the Suns come playoff time? And the answer is no.
I trust the Clippers.
Kawhi's healthy, I do.
Healthy. Yeah, that's the answer.
Yeah.
Even so, you take even with James Harden in the mix.
I mean, it's too removable.
I love that James Harden is like the drag on Kawhi and PG, where they're like, well, if Kawhi's healthy, it'd be great. And then you're like, but is Harden also healthy? Because that's the problem. All right, let's move on to two more. I got two people that I want to mention as winners, and we're going to do this one real quick. It's Gordon Hayward. Congratulations on leaving Charlotte and landing in the new mecca of basketball, Oklahoma City. He goes to what was previously the youngest team in basketball. He's going to skew that age a little bit, but I love him coming off the bench, probably going to close for Giddey. It's a nice, useful piece for them. And it's a good situation for Gordon Hayward. So congrats to him. This is the one I really want to get to, though. I don't know if you guys saw last night's Bucks game, but the Bucks got blown out at home by the Wolves, who Bill is not high on at all. But the Bucks didn't have Dame. They didn't have Chris Middleton. They looked terrible. Robin Lopez got traded yesterday.
It's amazing.
Oh, I sent this to you guys in the group chat.
Robin Lopez got traded yesterday to the Kings, who are going to waive him. But Robin Lopez was still in Milwaukee last night, and he was at the game, and I want to show you the video. Robin Lopez at the game last night with the Bucks getting crushed was reading a book courtside.
Bigger fingers are longer, easier to palm the basketball with that left hand. Because it just really is impressive how he can dunk like that with both hands. It's good to have Brook Lopez back. Splash Mountain sinking his first, and his brother's in attendance. You see that? Reading a book.
Brook Lopez's career. Wasn't a three-point shooter for his first 8 years in the NBA. Oh, and there's his brother.
We told you. He's got the Groucho Marx t-shirt on, too.
Traded to Sacramento, and he's going to be waived. And now he's not even watching the game, Jim Pete. He's just reading.
He's reading Backstory 2.
Really engaged. He's not looking up at all.
He's a Stanford guy. And you know what? He's not at the beginning either. He's been reading this book for a while.
Amazing.
Can I just highlight two things? One, his focus, impeccable. Like, to be able to read and really narrow in on what you're reading with the crowd noise is like top-notch concentration. But two, that's a library book. Did you see the library stamp on the side of the book? Like, he has a library card. He goes to the library.
That'd be
That's dope.
great if it was like a river runs through it, or just some doc reference was like slipped into the book.
So good. He's going to have to return it, though, unfortunately. So Godspeed to Robin Lopez. What a legend. We're going to take a quick break here. On the other side, we're done with the winners. We're going to do the losers, and there's so many of them. I'm very excited. That's next.
The biggest event in sports is coming to the entertainment capital of the world. CBS Sports HQ will have you covered every minute leading up to Super Bowl 58.
CBS Sports HQ at the Super Bowl,
getting you set with all the critical analysis you need.
This league is decided by quarterbacks.
He showed a lot of character in that moment.
Great perspective, Josina.
It's the moment you've been waiting for all season long. Ready, set, Vegas.
All right, welcome back. John Gonzalez, Ashley Nicole Moss, Bill Reiter. We did the winners from the trade deadline. Now we're going to do the losers. You just saw our last winner was Robin Lopez, who got traded and was reading a book. The team that he used to play for, absolutely a loser at the deadline, the Milwaukee Bucks. They are now 1-5, gang, under Doc.
No.
Again, they didn't have Dame, they didn't have Chris Middleton, but they got blown out at home versus the Wolves. Over that period, they are 22nd since Doc took over. They're 22nd in defensive rating, and they're 23rd in offensive rating. So they're not good at either end of the floor. They went and got Pat Beverly. That do anything for you?
I for one, am shocked.
I'm looking forward to the UFC fight between him and Damian Lillard. You know, they're
they don't like each other.
No. Does it do anything for me? I understand that you want to go and get some defense and some perimeter defense, and you gave that away when you got Damian Lillard. I don't know that Pat Bev is that guy anymore at that level. I don't. No, the answer is no. And they attached a second round pick to bring him in. They sent out a guy in campaign who neither Adrian Griffin nor Doc Rivers in a short spell tapped into, I think, the potential we saw at times when he was in Phoenix. And so you're selling an asset paying low to bring in a guy who in Pat Bev who might be a little over the hill, who doesn't get along with Damian Lillard, who's already miserable. I think it's a a disaster.
Wait, who's miserable? Pat Bev or Damian Lillard?
Oh. Damian Lillard's talked about this. He's going through a divorce. He's in Portland. He's a pretty open guy, right? He's not in a happy sort of personal headspace. The coach that he was going to be coached by got fired. Terry Stotts and Terry Stotts got hired before Dame got traded. But we talked about this yesterday. Terry Stotts is his guy, and Stotts was the top assistant, and then he just walked out early in the season. So I think it's a loss on paper, and I think it potentially adds to what has been a dumpster fire for Dame in particular.
They're tied with Ashley's New York Knicks. Knicks going one way, Bucks going the other. Time to panic on the Bucks, Ash?
Yeah, listen, I know that we spoke about, the Doc Rivers situation multiple times on this show. And last time we spoke about it, we said, look, it's going to take some time to get acclimated. But 1-5 start is not great. But I think that what stands out to me the most out of everything that you said, John, is the 22nd in defensive rating from a defensive coach is troublesome and worrisome to me. Also, we're talking about an offense that was top 5 when Doc Rivers got there. They're 23rd now. This is a team that's supposed to offensively, that's supposed to always be there. That was never their problem. Their offense with Adrian Griffin was there. It was the defensive aspect that was a lot of question marks, which is why you brought in Doc Rivers, because that was supposed to be his bread and butter.
In fairness,
and offensively, the team was supposed, but still to drop that hard
or Middleton.
They're not even top 10.
Defense, I'm with you, effort, but offense, like those are two pretty important guys.
I mean,
in that process, I don't want to be the one defending Doc Rivers. I think it's.
I just think that
fire, but
the ratings are the biggest concern for me. And again, even if you want to go ahead and make a case for the offense, the defensive rating when Doc Rivers is supposed to be a defensive coach, they're not even better defensively than they were when Adrian Griffin was there. So I'm confused. Like, I don't understand what the purpose of the whole situation was.
I'm
still very confused.
To get Doc $40 million. That was the purpose.
Yeah. Like, it's not fixing the problem.
Look, I've never had a problem with Milwaukee. I think the city is fun. I've never had a problem with Bucks fans. Godspeed to them. I am, however, really, really enjoying the Doc Rivers era in Milwaukee. Good luck to them. All right, next team up here that's a loser. The Detroit Pistons. What a weird season that these guys have been having. They waited forever to finally trade Bojan, and they did, but they didn't get a first-round pick out of it. They had to move him and Burks for some seconds. But I want to rattle all this off for you guys. This is what they have incoming. Fontecchio, Fournier, who's an expiring contract, Archie Diacono, Grimes, Troy Brown, Shake Milton, Daniel House, who they already moved in 4 seconds. Okay, that's all garbage. Outgoing, and said Fontecchio is fine, but he's 28.
It is all garbage.
Outgoing, Bojan, Burks, Monty, Kevin Knox, the Wiz second rounder, which is basically a late first. And on top of all that, they already waived House, Joe Harris, and they waived Killian Hayes, who was the 7th overall pick in 2020. And he started the night before they kicked him to the curb. What are the Pistons doing?
Well, on a positive note, they've won 2 in a row.
They also have a coach they cannot. Would you agree they have a coach they cannot fire? The contract they gave him, Monty is there. He's kind of like
producer Aaron brought this up. He said, he was like, when they waived Killian Hayes, it was basically saving Monty from himself. You can't start him anymore, Monty, because he's not on the team.
So it's like a money ball.
Yes.
Billy Bean trading away.
Art Howe.
The front office is the problem, and they are the ones that have largely drafted poorly. Now, I think Cade Cunningham has regressed. He has certainly in his career shown signs to me of being absolutely superstar material. He has regressed, and that's going to be a part of what Monty's doing. But to answer your question, John, everything's a disaster. Yesterday was a disaster. They don't have a plan. I know they hired Monty. You need a new front office to come in and fix this, because I could be wrong. I don't think ownership's eaten that money that they just paid Monty Williams. That guy is very handsomely paid in the very beginning of a very long, lucrative contract.
I feel bad discussing this. I feel like it's like punching down. Like the Detroit Pistons, Detroit's been through so much as a city. It's a shame, because I honestly thought at one point, and maybe I'm the minority here, but I really thought at one point when all this young talent got to Detroit, I really thought they were on the up and up. I didn't think it was going to happen overnight, but I thought that there was so much promise with the young guys that they had, and that the era of the Detroit Pistons kind of being one of the laughing stocks of the NBA was going to change a little bit. It just seems like they just can't get it right. And I don't know if it's a coaching issue. I don't know if it's a front office issue. I don't know if it's just you don't have the right players, the chemistry-wise, you just keep getting it wrong. But it's really unfortunate because I feel like there have been windows of opportunity for the Detroit Pistons to really build something. And for some reason, they can't get it right. It's how I feel about the Chicago Bulls, truthfully. They're in the same boat.
On paper, though, like they have some interesting pieces, right? Like Cade Cunningham, I like him more than Bill does, obviously. Ivy and Duran, I like. And
Love
then
Duran.
Asor Thompson was he started off gangbusters at the beginning of the season. And because he played well, Monty was like, I'm gonna have to put you on the bench. I'm not gonna give you any more minutes. Now maybe because of all the roster turnover, Monty's gonna be forced into starting Asor Thompson for the rest of the season. But I don't know. On paper, I kind of like some of the pieces, but the team is in complete disarray. All right. Speaking of disarray, our next two teams, we've discussed this. The Chicago Bulls, I don't get it. They didn't make a single move at the trade deadline. Absolute loser for me. At the very least, they should have sent out Andre Drummond. They didn't. He's still there. They still have Zach LaVine. They still have DeMar DeRozan, who I guess is going to sign a new contract with them. They still have Alex Caruso. They still have Nikola Vucevic. I don't get it. I don't understand.
It's a disaster.
I would be shocked if DeMar re-signs with them. I'd
be shocked if he doesn't at this point. I mean, there was a story reported by NBC Sports Chicago yesterday that all signs are pointing to a new deal with DeMar.
To do what?
What choice do they have but to give him all the money?
No, but like if you're DeMar DeRozan, signing a new deal to do what exactly? Like what
you've been doing? Live in Chicago, make a bunch of money, I guess. I guess that's it.
This team is not going to win. And I hate to say that because I've said this before. There was a window where it was like the Bulls are back. You know, they looked good. They went on that little winning streak. They looked cohesive. It looked like the Chicago Bulls were back, all the dark ages of them. It was a long time. They haven't even recreated a fraction of that magic. Not even like a little more of it.
What was it? 2-3 years ago now? 2-3 years ago now when they first assembled this group. Remember like the beginning of the season, even through like the All-Star break, they were playing really well, and then the wheels came off in the playoffs.
Yes,
January. Yes.
Yeah. There was a flash. I think that they still think that. Oh, remember that magic we had back in whatever year it was.
I use that.
We could get it back.
And then he got married. Like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you got to move on from your dreams, and that's what I had to do. I think the Bulls should do the same. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Time for you. Still time. We'll see. We'll move on to the Atlanta Hawks. They're just like the Chicago Bulls. They're a loser for me. They also did not move a single player. We have beaten this thing to death, but it's worth one more kick into the ribs for the Hawks. DeJounte Murray still there. Trey Young still there. DeAndre Hunter, Clint Capella, Bogdanovich. Didn't move any of them. And
let me give you some insight here. Here's what people think is going on, and I'm just telling you what people think is happening, including people in the organization. Just the messenger.
Don't shoot the messenger.
Have you noticed there's a lot of teams who think they can make some kind of miraculous run like the Heat or the Lakers? The Hawks are going to give it another go. They couldn't get the price they wanted from Murray, and they think that if it flails out again this year, which I think we all agree that it will, they believe in the summer they can go and get a better price for Murray and maybe be really aggressive with everybody that's on that roster, including potentially maybe Trey Young. They love Quinn Snyder. They think that he's long-term the guy. And there's a sense that perhaps there's just a really serious rebuild and that you will get, I'm not sure they will, a much higher return for whatever pieces they want to move, certainly including Murray, in the summer. So they decided to hell with it. We'll see if we get lucky and have another run like we did a couple years ago, and we'll just do the moves we were going to do and get a higher return in the summer. That's their plan.
I wonder, though, like just being a little messy here, like Trey Young, we've had conversations about Trey Young, his likability amongst guys in the league. Wasn't there that one year he made like the list of the most overrated? Overrated player
or what? A year ago, his own locker room didn't like him.
Okay, so using all that information, again, this is all speculation. I feel like moving Trey Young may be a little bit more problematic or a little harder than the Hawks are giving it credit for. I mean, if you're going to move him, more than likely you're going to move him to a team that has something to give you, right, in return. Those teams have superstars on them. Name a team, there's a superstar on them. If he's not liked by his own locker room and he's been voted most unlikable or whatever it was, he is most overrated amongst his peers, don't you think there's going to be a little bit of pushback with Trey Young wherever you try to move him outside of Atlanta? At least Atlanta's his domain. You know what I mean?
I think it only takes one GM, John, and there is at least 3 or 4 I can think of off the top of my head who I've talked to about the guy. Not all of them have the rumor, but who would still go for it. He's talented.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not a Trey Young guy. I think it's empty stats, empty calories, good stats, bad team type of guy. But he is an NBA player, right? I mean, he's an all-star this year. So you maybe you won't get the return that you thought that you could get for him. Yeah, I mean, maybe you won't get the return that you think that you should get for him, but you'll get something.
Is 3 first-round picks and Austin Reeves a good return?
3 first-round
than enough. More than enough.
So at a minimum, the Lakers, I think, would make a run at a Trey Young if they don't have an answer in Donovan Mitchell.
That would almost be an overpay to me, but whatever.
You think they go? You think they go for a Trey Young over DeJounte Murray?
Yes. Yes. I don't know that.
I'm not.
It depends how Pelinka evaluates Trey Young. I don't know the answer to that question, but yeah, in a vacuum, yes, I think so.
I personally would rather have DeJounte than Trey, but sure, why not? Godspeed again to the Hawks. I guess I understand why, what Bill is saying here, because as you look at that play in the Eastern Conference, that group is terrible. I mean, you've got the Miami Heat. We already saw what happened last year, so fine, take them out of the equation. But the Magic, the bloom has come off the rose a little bit there. We talked about the Bulls, not a fan. Then it's the Hawks in that 10 spot. And then they're 2 games clear of the Nets. So it's not like you're worried about the Nets either. It's just, I guess maybe you think, sure, maybe we can catch some fire. We'll get into the play-in and see what happens. But I would have moved everybody by now. We're going to take another quick break. And then after that, we've got still more losers to discuss. So many losers. More of that next.
The biggest event in sports is coming to the entertainment capital of the world. CBS Sports HQ will have you covered every minute leading up to Super Bowl 58.
CBS Sports HQ at the Super Bowl,
getting you set with all the critical analysis you need.
This league is decided by quarterbacks.
We showed a lot of character in that moment.
Great perspective, Josina.
It's the moment you've been waiting for all season long. Ready, set, Vegas.
All right, welcome back. John Gonzalez, Ashley, and Bill. A couple more losers before we get out of here. We mentioned in the winner segment the Lakers, which sounds sort of counterintuitive. For the loser segment, we've got LeBron and Lakers fans. Ashley was diminishing their effort last night against the defending champion.
It wasn't diminishing. You just wasn't overly impressed by it. That's all.
They look, on a depleted roster, LeBron looked really good. I don't know if you guys saw the touch pass that he had behind his head to AD for the dunk. It was silly, but still not enough. So they don't make a move, which was the right call, as we all agreed. But for LeBron, not a great call. For Lakers fans, not a great call. LeBron's 39. He's going to be 40 in December. They're not going to win anything this year, although Bill thinks potentially they could make a run to the conference finals. What's the best that they can hope for? Is it really the conference finals? They're 27 and 26.
Ceiling. I mean, we're talking ceiling.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
I guess that's the best.
If AD is healthy and LeBron is playing like he's playing, you don't get, putting the Nuggets aside, I give them at least a puncher's chance against everybody in the Western Conference other than maybe the Clippers. But then I think about the fact James Harden's on the Clippers, and I think about the fact that Kawhi Leonard is one random step down the hallway from injuring himself. And I think, yeah. Do I think it's a likely outcome? No. Do I think it's a possible outcome for the Lakers in a way that it's not for the delusional Bulls and Hawks? Yeah, I do think it's a possible outcome.
If we were talking one-on-one, right? If this is a one-on-one scenario that's like LeBron versus Kyrie, or no, Kawhi, my bad. Who do you take?
I would pay for LeBron, by the way.
I would take LeBron. If we were talking one-on-one scenario, sure, but we're talking a team sport. We're talking a team. Lakers versus blank. I'm not taking the Lakers over the Clippers, even with James Harden on the team. I'm not taking the Lakers over the Suns. I'm not taking the Lakers over the Nuggets. I would take the Lakers over the Timberwolves. OKC, I'm borderline.
Wow.
OKC, I'm borderline.
I can't believe you guys are still so down on the Wolves.
That's a conference finals. They made a conference finals last year.
So did Miami. They're not doing that again. Like, you know what I mean?
That is a false equivalency argument.
But there's fluke situations. Last
my
year,
daughter dropped her ice cream doesn't mean I'm destined to drop my ice cream.
I just don't think that the Lakers are going back-to-back conference finals. I think last year all the stars perfectly aligned. And that rarely ever happens twice. I don't see it happening again.
The stars properly aligned for the Hawks when they made that run.
And what have they done? What have they done
since?
It
was LeBron James just being LeBron James, like he's been LeBron James.
But you just mentioned the Hawks. What have the Hawks done since? It doesn't happen twice.
Making a conference finals is the stars aligning. To me, just misses the history of this era of the NBA, which is when LeBron competes and plays. He makes conference finals, like period. Full
but
stop.
It's LeBron, yes. But we're talking about
like
the Lakers team as a whole. It's not just
Anthony
LeBron.
Davis
He's a year older.
Anthony, I don't know
if
you guys saw Inside the NBA last night, but Ernie Johnson was just sitting there while Shaq and Charles screamed at each other, and he was like, louder. That's how I feel right now. You guys are just screaming at each other about something. Bill mentioned at the Atlanta. Bill mentioned the Atlanta Hawks going on that run. That required Ben Simmons to never make a free throw and also pass up a wide open dunk. So maybe that could happen for the Lakers if they run into some scenario like that.
There goes that PTSD again, John.
The stars aligning. The Lakers making it fits into the history of. How are we sleeping on the fact LeBron is the best or second best player of all time?
We're not
at a high level, and that gives them a. I can't. You're making me defend the Lakers. Do I think they're favorites? No. Do I think that we should discard them like these other teams? I think that misses who LeBron is and who the Lakers were last year.
Definitely not discarding, but we're talking about LeBron James, a year older now. You're talking about Anthony Davis, who, yes, has been more consistent than I feel like we have seen him in recent years. I feel like that's fair. He's having a much healthier season than we have seen him. But I can't put so much stock in that because Anthony Davis also ? D'Angelo Russell ? LeBron James is LeBron James. I'm not discrediting that.
About are they the favorites? It's can they do this?
I don't know if they can do it again.
To dismiss it out of hand. I don't
know. John, do you?
Bill thinks yes. Ashley thinks no. I think maybe. We're moving on to the Warriors. All right, Warriors also a loser. No CP3 or Wiggins in a trade, but I've been thinking about the war because I watched the Warriors last night. They won again, right? It's 3 in a row. It's 5 out of the last 6. Now, yes, most of the 5 out of the 6 that they beat, with the exception of the Pacers, has been garbage. They beat the zombie Sixers, the Nets, the Hawks, and the Grizz. Those are not good teams. However, they're only a game under. Hold on, they're only a game under 500 now, and they're tied with the Utah Jazz for that final play-in spot. We have them as a loser here, but are the
I don't hate what they did. I think they had 2 bad options. One of them is to stay on path.
Getting better.
Look, I just had the exact same argument about the Lakers, but do I think the Warriors can make a deep run? No, but I saw Steph Curry put up 60 not that long ago. He's still Steph Curry. I think Steph Curry is a top 5 player of all time. So I think, like LeBron, he's historically, rarely, remarkably great, even by the standards of all the guys that have played in this league. Do I think Klay is washed? Yeah. Do I think Draymond's a problem? Sure. Do I think Kuminga's a little young? Yes. But they still have Steph, and if they gel, they could certainly be dangerous. I get why they did what they did.
Where are you guys on? Because I was talking before we started the show. Producer Aaron grew up as a Warriors fan, and we were talking about how this team looks, and if they could make a little bit of a run. And he's super down on. I hate to out you here, Aaron, but he's super down on Steve Kerr. I like Kerr. Yeah, I think Kerr's a good coach. What how's your mileage on Kerr?
Can I just say that I love how we call him Producer Aaron and not our Producer Aaron?
Producer Aaron. I love Producer Aaron, and he's a true Warriors fan. He's not one of these bandwagon fans. Am I allowed to say this, Aaron? I guess just edit out if I'm not. His loathing for Steve Kerr goes to a place that I think is maybe a little bit beyond rational. Like it's a little
obsessive, unhealthy.
He does not like, as a coach, not as a human being. He does not.
What about you? What about you guys? Because I think Kerr. I love Kerr. I think he's a fantastic coach. I've mentioned this before. I think there's a handful of coaches at the bottom of the list that you wouldn't want at all. Group in the middle that's pretty much interchangeable. And then I think there's like 5 guys in the league that you would take over everybody. Spo, obviously, Pop. I'd have Kerr in that mix.
I think you only would have Kerr in that mix because he's only coached Steph Curry. I think it's Aaron's line. It's all 30, right? It's not my line.
Yeah, it's all 30.
Jordan did this. LeBron does this. Look, I think Kerr is a great coach, and I would hold him in higher regard than producer Aaron might. But I do think when it comes to his rotations and his development of these young players, it has been haphazard and problematic, and it is now catching up to this.
It
team.
has been, but like, what's the alternative though? Like, for me, when you're winning championships, right, and trying to compete for championships, that whole dual track thing was a disaster of an idea. They shouldn't have even tried it. You've still got Steph Curry. Forget about the young guys.
But they didn't. That was the plan.
But I think that when we talk about like these coaches, right? Obviously, when you talk about Popovich, you can talk about, him with the legendary Spurs team, right? When you talk about Phil Jackson, it's either the Bulls or the Lakers. When you talk about Spoelstra, it's the many different eras of championship Miami Heat teams he's coached. With Steve Kerr, I wonder if you took Steve Kerr and you put him and say, and I like Steve Kerr too, so this is just me playing devil's advocate. If Steve Kerr was the coach of the New York Knicks, just use that as an example, does Steve Kerr have the same type of legacy he had in Golden State? Is it a Steve Kerr thing, or is it you had Steph Curry, prime Klay Thompson, and Draymond? Like, is it a Steve Kerr? He's the Jedi Master, or is it Steve Kerr, good coach, really great players? Like, I always wonder like where that line is between coach and how good the coach is, and just the situation that they lucked out coaching in.
He did unlock something in putting together the way the Warriors played and what it meant for the game, what it meant for Steph Curry. I don't want to totally undersell it.
No, not necessarily. Just being playing devil's advocate.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I think that I think it's like being a quarterback in the NFL. Yeah, your talent and your work ethic matter, but your situation is very significant to whether you succeed or fail. I think Steve Kerr fails a lot.
I would remind both of you. I would remind both of you, as well as producer Aaron, that Mark Jackson also had 30, right? Didn't work out. He had Steph Curry, and then along comes Steve Kerr, and they take off.
Is a broadcaster for a reason.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So Steve Kerr took the same guys and turned them into a championship team.
Look at Doc Rivers, championship in Boston, hasn't done it since.
Yeah, I think Kerr. Look, I think Steph Curry raises. He's the water
cachet
boats, man.
All right, real quick before we move on to this last one, we're gonna close out the show. Let's do the better than game again with the Warriors. They're 24-25, game under 500.
Better than in a 7-game series, because it's different for me.
Moving forward, we'll call it, right? It'll be all encompassing and a catch-all. Moving forward, better than the Jazz, I think yes, especially after the Jazz trading players away.
7, including 7-game series, because that's really what I'm talking about.
All right.
Okay.
Better than the Lakers?
Yes.
No.
Oh.
That's a tough one. It's a tough one. That's a toss-up for me. Better than the Mavs?
Yes.
Yes. In a 7-game series, I'll take
that. Kings and Pelicans?
No to the Kings.
I don't know. They owned him mentally last year. I'm going to go
yes. I'm going to say yes to the Kings.
I'm going to go yes and yes.
I say no to the Kings. Yes,
John is talking me into the fact Mike Dunleavy Jr. actually won the trade deadline yesterday. Okay.
Yeah. I went from putting the Lakers and the Warriors as losers of a sort and being like, you know what, though? They look pretty good. I could make a case. Last one for you is Bruce Brown, and we don't have to spend any time on this, but Bruce Brown, everybody was talking about him getting moved and being a really instrumental piece, and he goes from being a hot trade commodity who was an integral part of a championship team last year to being exiled in Canada. So I guess
I'm just that's.
And I love Toronto. I just hope he likes Tim Hortons. Like, good luck with that.
Oh, good Tim Hortons reference.
Tim Hortons is excellent.
Coffee and donuts. Right.
I hope he enjoys his time north of the border. That's all the time we have, though, for today. We're going to be back next week talking more NBA. NBA never stops. This was very delightful. Bill's off to the airport. Ashley is off to Denver to see a different airport. I'm going to stay here in Los Angeles. It was great to see you guys. This was fun.
Likewise. If I don't come back for next week's show, I've been abducted by the aliens in Denver.
We will send out a rescue crew. All right. For Bill and Ashley, I'm John. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week.